Welcome back to the Local Church Podcast. We are so grateful to be with you today to be able to share about the things that are going on with the local church and where we're at in the church planting process as we're trying to navigate things and figure stuff out and make mistakes and learn along the way and keep trying. So we are in the middle of September right now. We've been on the ground a little over 7 months. And how does that hit you? I'm just out of curiosity. Does that feel like it's been way longer than 7 months? It's only been a month? Like, I'm just curious when you hear that, what goes through your brain?
I think it feels like it's been way longer than 7 months, which then makes me feel like, oh, we've done a lot in 7 months. Yeah, I just can't believe it's only been 7 months. That sounds ridiculous. Like, sorry guys, I have something in my eye. It just feels like it's had so much and so many shifts and movements and things starting and shifting and ending and move. I don't know. It just has been very full. So feels like way more than 7 months of life has happened.
Yeah. And it's weird because it does feel like that. And simultaneously, and I know we talked about this a number of times, but it's like, it also feels like, man, we moved like a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Is how it kind of feels like. I don't know. I'm processing this in real time, so I'm thinking about how I feel right now in this moment. But I feel like I'm almost not quite comfortable here yet. And not that it's about like comfort, but I mean like in my own skin, like in this space, like I still feel a little bit like a foreigner. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that way, or how do you feel? Okay.
No, I think it's a weird, like in Orange County, I feel like it took me a really long time to not feel mostly like a foreigner. Like I always felt foreign.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I just never felt like it was fully me or fully home. Maybe because so many parts of it felt unreal, like living by the ocean and the mountains and things where you're like, am I on vacation still? Like when you go there and experience it and then yet you're living this life. I don't know how to describe it, but it never fully felt like home. And yet moving here, it immediately felt like home. And I think part of that we've talked about before is like the call to where we are and this heart and fire and passion and the fact I'm from Kansas. So they're very similar vibes to Kansas City as like the city I grew up in, you know, just like similar structures, architecture, whatever that feel familiar to me, and nature, landscape. But there are other parts that I'm like, oh yeah, we're still new here. Like school and the way that works and teachers' names and we don't have the memories that other people have here or someone asked me a question recently. I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like that is a very common question that you would know the answer to if you had lived somewhere for a while kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or someone that's a little less new than us, you know, moved a couple months after us or a couple months ago will be like, where is that? I'm like, I don't know. So I do think there's myself feels more at home here.
Okay.
But I'm reminded that I'm still a bit of a foreigner. And it always, I think it felt like backwards before I felt like a foreigner and had to be reminded, like, I live here.
Oh,
Does that
got
make
you.
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. You're at Orange County. You're
In
saying
Orange
comparing to
County,
Orange County.
yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I hadn't
I
thought
don't
about
know
it
if
that way,
that's
but
how
that
you feel or if yours is different than that.
I think that's right. Like, I hadn't thought in those words before, but I think that that's true, that there's this aspect of like, this is our home, feels more homey than, you know, the apartment in California. And I think that there was definitely a part of me, and we were okay, we were obedient, we did what we needed to do, but I do think there was a part of me that remained discontent or felt like going backwards from owning a home in Michigan to going to California, and we loved it and had some good community in the apartment complex, things like that. But I wonder if even that was a little bit of like oh, this isn't home yet because we went quote unquote backwards. And I know we didn't actually, but that almost emotionally, maybe how it felt. But yeah, that's good language. It's good language. Reminded that of Warner. I do think that there is an aspect of where like I really do love where we're at. Like it's not that. It's not a lack of wanting to be here, or it's simply a comfortability with being here, where it doesn't feel maybe that's where it's natural. It doesn't feel natural that I'm a Kansas City metro native, you know, or not native, because that would mean I'm from here. Kansas City metro resident now, where it feels like I'm still getting the hang of things and still trying to understand so much. And I hope I'm always learning and gaining that insight, but it just doesn't feel like breathing yet. And at least in Michigan, and I would say even in parts in California, it felt a little bit more like breathing, where this is where I go, this is what we do, and we've built some of those rhythms here with, you know, which Trader Joe's we go to, which Costco, some of those things. But I don't know, something just doesn't. It feels like I'm grinding the gears just a little bit in some areas of life. That don't
Well,
quite
I think
feel.
partially because we have had zero rhythm, like continual rhythm since moving here. And in Michigan and Orange County, we were inserted into a rhythm of like, this is your job, this is your job description. And movements would come with that, like we're adding this to your role, or we're changing buildings, or whatever. But it was something already established. And I think the continual building of the local church, there's no rhythm. Like, there's just not. We might have rhythmic things being put into place, like we
Yeah.
have life group on this night now. But we've had so many firsts that nothing
true.
has felt like consistently this is us here, aside from this is our home, like literally the home we're coming home to.
Yeah.
But even then, we've had so many people in and out, like staying, which has been a blessing. But there hasn't been a consistent, this is what our life looks like in this place over a long period of time. And I
Yeah.
don't know that it will feel like that for a while.
Yeah.
I think the kids being in school can create a different kind of rhythm for sure that
Yeah.
can help with that. But I think it's, you know, the nuances of like building what we're building with the Lord, that there's not like a place where you feel like you can sit and be like, that's done. Like, it's no, that's just,
In process.
that's, yes, constantly in process.
Yeah. Well, that actually matches what my coach was saying last week. He goes, the whole structure of your church is you guys. Like, it's us.
Yeah. Wow.
Where you're not
Sorry.
stepping into a system and a structure and,
Yeah.
you know, things that are in place and established. It's whatever your rhythm is, whatever your structure is, that is the structure of the entire church right now. And
It's a little scary.
it is a little intimidating to like sit back and be like, oh shoot, like how am I living my life in such a way? Because it might work for me, but it has to be able to include other people if it's for the whole church, right? And so there's this idea of like operating almost maybe differently than I naturally would for the sake of other people being a part of that, or thinking from, and I know this language can sometimes feel a little bit weird when it comes to church, but thinking more organizationally from a standpoint of like, other people are a part of this. It's not just me. It's not just us as a couple. It's not just our family, but it's we are building a community and a culture for other people to be invited into. And so thinking that way of almost like, do I need to think differently or create something that's slightly different that allows me to then step into, rather than it's just rooted on me or on you, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
the totality of our structure is the structure. It's like, well, there's a goodness to that because God wired us and called us to do this and help create this culture. But there's also a negative where it can't be based on personality. If we build the church based around our personality or our way of doing things, then it will only ever work for us. And so how do we intentionally work towards that space of like building the culture that's not determined based on us, which is like, feels like a really intimidating concept.
But it's, I think it's also the pursuit of being a disciple. Like, there are aspects of us as a disciple that are healthy and good, structured, rhythmed, cultured things, like being in the Word and in prayer on a regular basis, right? But maybe the other things that don't exist in us or don't exist in a way that's translatable are those like practicing the way of Jesus moments of like, I'm more versed at practicing the way of Jesus this way, but I need to shift with him as he pulls this way and walk this way as we're leading people. I'm recognizing I don't do this or this or this very well or in a way that's encouraging or translatable or whatever, where I feel like it is intimidating, but it's also like, wait, it's almost just like the transformation of a disciple process just happening in real time in a way that's very overt. Like everyone's watching me right now change as a disciple versus it often feels like it's supposed to be an individual thing. But if you're shepherding people, you're going to be shepherding them in what you're leading in. And that feels like, oh, there's a lot in us that needs to keep shifting and changing and breathing differently. So it is intimidating, but I also think like, wow, isn't that just the normal thing as a disciple is like we're constantly becoming more like Jesus. And I know our mandate as the pastors of the local church, it looks different than if we were just doing this in our walk with our kiddos, because there is a different responsibility of like leading a whole bunch of people into this thing that God has asked us to do. I say that and I feel like it sounds like I'm saying this is like better or more important, and it's not that. It's just different, like where it's held up differently. I don't know. You're staring at me like I'm not making any sense. Am I making sense?
Yes, but I think that like I it makes sense in the sense of being a disciple is typically viewed as individual and this is more of a collective thing. But I think that I'm having a hard time understanding a little bit of what you were talking about with being a disciple, and that what we're doing is just like being a disciple, but different. I don't understand what the difference is.
Because often when I'm discipling, that's not a verb. When I'm a disciple of Jesus, I don't think about the people that are following me, except my kids. This feels like, oh, we're literally leading a church in how we are a disciple of Jesus. They're following what we do in an essence. Like, if we are the structure, quote unquote, of the church, that means whatever plow marks we're putting in the ground, that's what people are following. So us being a disciple of Jesus is leading this thing behind us. That I think we would be doing this anyway. I think we're just more aware of the plow marks we're putting in because it affects the people behind us differently than, you know, if it's our kids in our home, like this is what our family does. Well, now this is what our family, the local church family, does. Like, what does that mean? It feels like, I don't know, that there's more plow marks behind us than there would have been. And therefore, it feels like there's a different weight to being a disciple right now, but it's still that same process of I'm a disciple with Jesus. I have to just keep doing what he's called me to do. But I'm also realizing that has to translate to the people plowing behind me. You know, that like, and they're yoked to Jesus too. But if they're following us and what God has asked them to follow us in, like, are our tracks making sense, you know, or the things that we're saying yes to, is that healthy for the people behind us? Versus like, well, okay, if I say yes and it's not healthy, it's going to affect me and my family, but we'll deal with it. No, that this affects like our family, you know, of however many people, like that touches a lot of lives. It's almost like the wake from a boat. It's different now. There's more people in the water. It feels like, you know, that will catch that wake or not. Does that make sense what I was trying to say? Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't. Sorry, you're, It sounded very much like I need to say yes so we can move on. I don't know what you're saying. No. Does it really make sense?
Yeah, I think that the way that you're describing it, I feel like we're almost talking about two different things to a degree.
Probably are. We usually are.
But it makes sense of like what we are doing affects more people. Yes, that part makes more sense. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like the way we follow Jesus is now a model for more people than just our family. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just felt like that had to do with what you were saying because you're like, it feels different. And to me, it does, but it only feels like we're still doing the same things we would have done. I just feel like we're aware of them differently because there's more people watching
Gotcha.
to follow what we're doing.
Gotcha.
So I thought we were talking about the same thing. Anyways, moving on.
But that's a really good point of like how there's a part of it that's accountability that more people are watching, and there's a part that is like, well, it shouldn't matter because I'm just following Jesus and being obedient to him. And those two things I think have to play together a little bit because I do think there's a goodness to the accountability of like someone's watching my life. And so am I living a life where I think I heard someone else put this one time, if somebody does 50% of what you do in your pursuit of Jesus, would they still be pursuing Jesus? And so, like, what does that look like for us to live our life in a way that can be modeled, so to speak, after a little bit of how Paul talks about do as I do like Christ, but always pointing them to Jesus, that it's not us. We're simply the mirror reflecting the heart of the Father. And so trying to do that as best as we can, which is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard times, but a joy and privilege still nonetheless, but it can be difficult just to make sure that we're doing that well for the people. And mostly one of the things we've been talking about a lot about is communication. Like, are we communicating clearly? Are we communicating enough? Are we communicating too much? Are we doing it where that our communication is actually helpful, pointing people to Jesus, accomplishing the mission that he's put on our heart? And is our communication doing that? So,
Yeah.
we kind of jumped back into small group. We had a couple weeks off with Labor Day and being gone, and interest gathering, and now we jumped back in last night to our small group. Felt really good. We're working through John Mark Comer's Practicing the Way, but it was just so good to be back in that space together with our core team, sharing stories, to get to know one another and practicing vulnerability. What do you really sense is like, maybe it's not the one thing, but what's at least one thing that jumps out to you that you really sense like, man, this season of small group time with our core team needs to do this, or I hope it does this in us individually, collectively, whatever it might be. But what's like one thing that just really stands out to you that you're hoping happens?
I don't know. I think I would need longer to think about that because there's like a lot of things that I would say, but I don't know like what the one thing.
I just
Would
meant like
be-
what's one of them, not like the one thing.
No, when I say that, I mean like, oh, I might have like 5 things, but they actually fall under the umbrella of this thing. Like
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think my hope would be that it provides a consistent space where people are learning to sit still before the Father collectively, and then are encouraged to go do that individually where they're experiencing His presence and unhurriedness in their souls in a different way in this season. Because I think it's hard to do it individually sometimes, but I can come do it collectively where I know like someone's going to ask why I'm not there, you know? So if I don't show up, people are going to be like, where are you at? But if I go home and don't do this during the week, it's just me and the Lord or whatever. I almost think it's a different, it's a harder space sometimes to do it by yourself. But with that, I just really want to develop a life of prayer in our people, like with them. And I don't mean just like asking the Lord for things, but a life as prayer, like being aware of his presence and his voice and his leading, and using his strength and courage and perseverance to like obey out of love. Like, yeah, to have such a life of prayer and awareness of the Spirit's leading, it can just change everything. So I think there's, just my heart for that, and recognizing like God can do that no matter what, but also like how do we create an environment where that is a little more possible. So like structuring stuff for the kids differently / a little better, so there's not so much chaos. Not that kids are chaos, but there's been a lot of chaos in the last couple of meetings with kiddos running around and screaming and hurting themselves, all normal, natural things. But I haven't created a structure. We haven't created a structure to help them like exist in a space a little bit differently, so that the parents and other people present here maybe have a little more, even just a little more quiet, not complete silence, but a little more quiet to not have such interrupted thought. Though that's a discipline we have to learn, is like no matter what's going on around me, but there are conducive environments to like being able to receive. And for me, that's having a little more quiet, partially because my kids are loud all the time, so having a little more quiet like allows me space to hear the Lord a little easier, and wanting to like help create a space for people to do that here, especially if they don't get it throughout their week, if they're stay-at-home parents or whatever. Like, what does it look like to help love them well by providing a structure here where they know their kids are safe and taken care of, and they can come fully present and be filled in such a way that it encourages them to keep going back to the source of life throughout the week, So I think just providing the opportunities for people to experience that gives them pieces of the experience to make it more habitual. Like, oh yeah, I remember this moment. Like, I'm going to take that with me, and God met me in that place and said this thing to me. And so I think that's a part of my heart in this season. And for people who are already doing it well, like just providing another opportunity for them to help teach others, and to hear how they're experiencing the Lord, and what it looks like in the chaos that exists around them, for them to continually, habitually have a life of surrender before the Lord, not perfectly, but consistently surrendered, even in just like the willingness of their heart. So that was a very long answer, but I think it really is just like this environment, this opportunity to experience something together that encourages people like, oh, that's what that is. That's what that means. I haven't had that for a while. I haven't had the space for that to happen, or in a life group, or well, I don't know. Okay, I'm done.
No, that's fine.
I've been like verbally vomiting so much lately. The Lord's teaching me to be quiet, and I'm not doing a very good job practicing. So your turn.
I mean, yeah, that's good though. I like that, of like we're trying to set, maybe not the tone might not be the right word, but set the table in a way that allows people to participate freely without extra hindrances or distractions, in a way that is beneficial, but also setting the kids up well. I think you mentioned this last night of like, how do we help disciple them in this season? And it's not just having them out of the room so the adults can have a conversation, but how do we help them grow in their relationship with Jesus as we're having this conversation, obviously in different, simpler, whatever ways, but still setting them up for growth and spiritual development in their own area. So that's good. We have a few things feel like coming up. It feels like we're in a season of like, I don't know exactly how to put it, but where things are starting to get closer and closer to like launching services. And so things are going to start shifting, whether it's the way that our core team gathers or the structure of our meetings or things at the building that are we got to start putting together, getting ready to welcome people into a weekend service. And so it feels like there's a lot on the horizon. And so we would just love anyone, and by that I mean we need anyone and everyone's prayers, just as we're seeking to do all of these different things, whether it's our Sunday Night Life group and leading that space, whether it's setting up the building and what that space is going to look like to help people grow in their relationship and to practice the way of Jesus in their day. And so there's just like a lot of things I feel like that are coming up soon and very soon that are just really going to shift the dynamics of the local church, which is good. I mean, that's what we've been working towards and moving in that direction. But just prayers for us and also prayers for our core team, because they're kind of a little bit like along for the journey. You know, they're helping do so much and we're so grateful, but I don't want them to ever feel like yanked and pulled around by decisions that we're making. I want them to feel like, man, we are a part of this. We're doing this with them. And so just that we would do that well, kind of back to that communication piece. So we'd communicate well and set things up well to help them in this season. Because I truly believe that it's so much is from them and because of that core team that is pouring out their love, that is participating in what's happening, that is going to be the ones to help with the equipping and the serving and carrying out the mission and vision of the local church. So just really pray for us to do that well, but for our core team to also have the best opportunity to pursue Jesus in that way. So is there anything coming up that is on your mind that to be praying for or thinking through?
I think it's just like the two things that come to mind are when to do interest gatherings and how, like what that looks like for our context in this culture in ways that God has designed us to do, and not just doing it because we're supposed to, but like what fits here and what fits with the events God has placed us in, and then just prayer for the opportunity to keep being involved in our community when it's been really hard to actually find ways to be involved. Ironically, I think in my head I just thought people would jump at opportunities to have you serve, and that's actually not true. Like some people are really grateful, but it's actually like, actually you need to pay $2,000 to like serve water. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have that. But just this, like, I get there's like that businessy side that exists. And then there's this side of like, people are like, yes, absolutely. And then this middle ground is really weird of like, how do you find opportunities? And again, not just seeking them because we're supposed to, you know, be in the community, but like we have a heart to be in the community, but I don't want to just be plowing around trying to find something, but just asking God to put us where he wants us and the opportunities he wants us to be invested in. And hopefully, honestly, with like some repetitive relationship, like how, where somewhere we can serve on a regular basis or annually, like the same thing. So there's rapport that happens there and relational bridges that are built and social justice, you know, opportunities maybe that can take place because we're showing up regularly. I don't know what that looks like. And then I guess there's the third thing of like just praying for God to make this a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-generational church. Like we can't do that on our own, but I believe it's such a picture of heaven, and just asking God to bring the people he wants to be a part of this and showing us how to shepherd them well with his love. And so those are, I think, on my mind a lot. Like it feels weird that it's actually in some ways slowing down with the number of events we've been a part of with summer. And at the same time that feels like a blessing because of the different kind of clicking into spaces we have to go into with getting things put into place differently with services coming. But I don't want to lose the heartbeat of like being present and serving well. So
Awesome.
Just prayers for wisdom and direction. Yeah.
Well, do you want to pray to close us out today?
Sure. Excuse me. Lord, thank you that you hem us in behind and before and place your hand upon us, that you know us intimately and you intricately created us, and you know us full well. You know what we're going to say before we say it. You know the thoughts in our minds. You know why we struggle with what we struggle with. You know our gifts and abilities and what brings us great joy. Thank you that you are truly the root of all beautiful desire, because we are made to be loved by you, to love you, to be filled with all your fullness. So God, I just pray where any of our desires are skewed or off, would you fill us with wisdom and discernment, understanding, counsel, power, and might through your Holy Spirit to know what to say yes to and what to say no to, what to be transformed in, and how to follow you as your disciple, whether or not we have people watching us. And would you show us the ways in which you want us to walk differently, Lord, according to your heart for us and for your world. And God, I just ask that you continue to build this church. It's yours. I pray that you bless those who are listening with just a manifestation of your presence in their lives, that they would be awakened to your nearness, that they would hear your voice, that they would know your truth, because your truth sets us free. God, I also pray a protection over your people. It feels like so much spiritual warfare happening lately in more intense ways. So would you arm us with yourself, give us courage and perseverance, endurance and strength to stand, and would our reliance and dependence be upon you. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.